This is a rather unexpected video, but since I got a flood of PMs about it, I felt the need to finally join the fight and start swinging for all kinds of stars. I wanted to record this freestyle and preserve all of the herbs, spices, flavor, and life that only unscripted videos can bring. But for this topic, I wanted to make sure I hit everything, which is something that said unscripted video rarely is able to bring, especially with zero editing. So yes, I did actually script this out, and I'm just going to bang this out because I just started binge watching House of Cards season 4, and I'm at the end of episode 2. Yeah, so been working on this for a couple of days now, gathering my thoughts, and well, let's get started. So to catch anyone not up to speed, long story short, apparently in November of 2014, a New York police officer named Peter Liang was on something called a quote-unquote vertical patrol with his partner in a low-income area high-rise. Apparently that kind of thing is common in New York. Liang shot his gun, the bullet ricocheted off the wall and hit a man named Akai Gurley. Liang then argued with his partner as to getting Gurley medical attention while the woman Gurley was with tried to give him CPR. That woman ended up finding out to be his girlfriend. Fast forward to recently, Peter Liang is apparently convicted of the killing and is facing up to 15 years in prison. Apparently, the Asian American community isn't happy about that. Now that you're up to speed, let's get started and see how many people I can piss off with this one. Yeah, people are going to be pissed off. People are going to subscribe. People are going to unsubscribe. People should know by now that I don't care about subscribers or anything like that, so that's not going to affect me anyway or the other. Actually, a bit more side note to that. Due to the fact that I don't really have like almost no amount of my money, of my income is coming from YouTube, that leaves me free to say whatever the hell I want without having to worry about any kind of financial impact to my pockets. It's great, absolute freedom. Right, let's keep going. With this one, since I won't be toning it down to try to appeal to the foolishness that is racial solidarity. However, do try to get to the end of the video, though, and let's see if I can't piss off whatever race or group you're in the process. First is the Peter Liang character himself. He fully deserved what he got. Why? Simple. A. He had his gun drawn when there was no threat in any form or fashion presented to him, much less one that threatened his life. B. He had his finger on the trigger when he supposedly had no intention of shooting his gun. C. His gun wasn't down, meaning pointed to the ground. D. He stood there arguing whether he should call for medics while the person he shot supposedly by accident was dying. Again, remember, this was a quote-unquote vertical patrol. The elevators weren't working that night, which was the reason that Akai and the woman, his girlfriend, with him was taking the stairs. It was also pitch black in the stairwells, which immediately prompted me to ask, why weren't the police officers using flashlights so they could properly see what they were doing? One could ask why the place didn't have lights working in the first place. As valid as that question seems to be on the surface, it really is irrelevant as the officers knew that the lighting was poor, if not non-existent, and should have equipped themselves accordingly, which circles back to the why no flashlights question. Besides, it's the projects, and apparently one of the worst ones. Side note, so further digging tells me they did actually have flashlights using, which makes the events that happened even worse, actually. That doesn't help their case. Moving on. Oh, and I put some rather sexual-based references in here to try and lighten the mood and make this easier to follow and, well, not follow, but go down. Kind of like lubing the pill, sugaring up the pill, just to humor a bit. Not that this is a humoring topic. This is actually a very serious topic, but you know, the attention spans of this generation. Anyway. So yeah, sexual-based references sprinkled in are just for comedic effect. Yeah. Now I'm going to get balls deep in the Asian community's ass and set up base. But even now, at this late hour, I'll be nice and put on a bit of lube in the form of agreeing, to an extent, to some of the points brought up by said community. First off, you're quite right in believing that your boy Liang was a scapegoat, a sacrificial lamb strategically placed, dare I say, played like chess, by the white supremacist entities that be, to try and pacify blacks and indeed the world, who was beginning to raise an eyebrow at the mass killings of unarmed and, in some cases, detained people in the USA. Black people is just not people in the USA, who just happened to all be black by cops who just happened to be white and male. Happen to all be white and male. By being able to say, see, we do give justice and hold law enforcement and hold law enforcement officers accountable when it's justified to do so. That's as close as an olive branch as you're going to get from me. I'm fully lubed up now. Remember those sexual references? Yeah. I'm fully lubed up now and longer, thicker, heavier, and rock hard as godly possible. So split those cheeks, east and west. This is gonna hurt. 1. You all must have lost your fucking minds if you think that this Peter Liang fool should be set free, as I keep seeing everywhere from comment sections of various articles to entire Facebook pages dedicated to this idiot. He made 4 big blunders that were in his training to not do. They are, in fact, trained to not do pretty much all 4 things that he did. So, I mean, that's in the New York police training. It's probably in the police training of every cop everywhere in the United States, but it's at least in New York's training. Okay, and I don't give a fuck that he's a fucking rookie. If he's a rookie, if he's that much of a rookie, he shouldn't have been on the streets. Him or his boy. Or his partner, whoever the hell that was. Anyway, moving on. You talk about condolences for Gurley and his family, but quote-unquote justice for Liang? You racist idiots must not be the high IQ Asians that stereotypes ad infinitum are made from. You can't even hide your racism properly and efficiently. This leads me to 2. You aren't fooling anyone with an IQ of 0 or above when you ask for quote-unquote justice for Liang. Justice would have been not only him getting what he got, but also losing the appeal. I don't know if he's going to apparently appeal. I don't know if that's happened yet, or the outcome of that. And I'm tired of researching this thing anymore. I'm just putting this out now, so whatever comes in after comes in after. Losing the appeal and no possibility of parole. The quote-unquote justice you all wanted is seen by some of the things said at those demonstrations, as well as what is shown on some of the signs held by the demonstrators. Simply summed up, what you're asking, calling it justice, is, quote, all these white officers got off for doing the same thing, so how come when one of ours kills one of these Negroes, he goes down? Unlike when all these white guys kill these black guys, the one done by our guy actually looks the most like an accident. Minus the whole not calling the medics part. Unquote. From that I say, thanks for finally coming out and admitting what black people knew every other non-black person knew about the situation with blacks and cops, but chose to keep silent about. If it had been a string of killings by cops that just happened to be black and the people that they killed just happened to be white, no one will be playing dumb. Same thing if the cops all happened to be male and the people they killed happened to be female. Hell, if the cops all happened to be German and the people that they killed all happened to be Jews, no one on the planet would be coming up with all the justifications, as most everyone that wasn't black seemed to have in the case that actually played out, that being black males and the cops. Just happens to be white male cops, not every white, just happen to be white male cops, not even white female cops, and just happened to be majority black male victims. At least till relatively recently. Now we have black women getting killed as well. You knew it made no sense. You knew the stories that the white supremacist system made up that many non-blacks, white or not, knew to be false, but chose to believe anyway, to explain away the supposed justification for all the white officers being before Liang made no sense. You knew all this, yet much like Indians, Native Americans, Middle Easterns, and all else who have yet to be burned by white supremacy today, you kept silent. Hey, you still alive? How's that ass feeling? Need a break? Well, I'll give you one. Aren't I nice? Don't go anywhere. I haven't busted these nuts of truth yet, and that Asian ass is tighter than I was told. So then, a bit of side note as quoted from Wikipedia. Quote, the Louis Pink houses are considered to be among the worst housing developments in New York. Patrick Lynch, head of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association of the City of New York, characterizes them as, quote, among the most dangerous projects in the city, with dimly lit stairwells representing a particular danger. Police Commissioner Bill Bratton reported that there had been a recent, quote, spike in violence. In the neighborhood, according to NYPD statistics, there were 2 murders and 4 shootings in pink houses in the preceding year. And this now pretty much goes into a slightly bit more detail of the situation. 2 rookie police officers assigned to the NYCHA's Louis H. Pink houses where they were conducting routine vertical patrols, in which officers patrol a public housing complex from the roof to the ground floor. Break. That doesn't make any sense to me. It would be a bit better to patrol from the ground to the roof. That way, anybody who's trying to get away, where are they going to go? They run to the ground, they run into you. They run to the roof, they slowly get cornered. Unless they jump off, in which case, well, shit, case closed, save the taxpayers some money. So I don't, anyway, hey, whatever, none of this makes sense. It didn't make sense to put 2 fucking rookies out there either, but they did that, so whatever. And we are back. From the ground floor, from the roof to the ground floor, stopping on each floor to see if there's any crime in progress. At the time, their commander had instructed officers in the area to not carry out vertical patrols and instead conduct exterior policing in the East New York housing project. Oh, so they didn't do what their superiors told them. Well, okay, so that now adds number 5 to that list of blunders. Okay. And you Asians wonder why your boy got fucking burnt. Okay. Yeah. The NYPD's policy on whether an officer should keep a weapon holstered on such patrols is purposely vague, and the decision as to when to take the firearm out is left to discretion of the officers, in this case 2 rookies, according to Police Commissioner Bill Bratton. The department also insists, however, that the officers place their finger on the trigger only upon encountering, quote, extreme and particularized danger. I don't see what danger there is in an empty hallway or empty stairwell. Right. At the time the gun was discharged, the light in the stairwell at 8th floor, I'm quoting here, so it's at the 8th floor, but at 8th floor was broken. Akai Gurley, 28 years old, was visiting his girlfriend and getting his hair braided before Thanksgiving. He entered the stairwell about a flight below Officer Sean Landu and Peter Liang, who were patrolling in the pitch dark stairwell with no lights. They had flashlights. Why were they patrolling in the pitch dark? But okay, fine. Pitch dark meaning no rose. Okay, we'll give that one to them. Yeah. Aren't I nice? According to the prosecutors, Officer Liang, who is left-handed, pulled out his flashlight with his right hand and holstered his 9mm Glock with his left. What danger was there? Right. Okay. He then shoved open the stairwell door with his right shoulder, turned left to face the 7th floor landing, where Gurley had just entered. It appeared neither side knew each other was there, and no words were exchanged, according to authorities. After being startled, Liang's gun accidentally discharged as he opened the door, and the bullet ricocheted off the wall and struck Gurley once in the chest, who died within minutes. It was reported that Gurley actually ran after hearing the gunshots and didn't realize that he was bleeding until collapsing on the 5th floor. The fatal shooting of Akai Gurley is notably similar to the shooting death of Timothy Stansberry Jr. that occurred in July 2004 when Officer Richard S. Neri killed Timothy Stansberry Jr., 19, on a roof at the Louis Armstrong houses in Brooklyn at about 1 a.m. When Officer Neri, with his gun drawn, approached a rooftop door to check the stairway inside, a grand jury declined to indict the officer on charges of criminal negligence, homicide, declaring the event as an accident, even after he gave testimony that he had unintentionally fired. He was startled. Okay, I guess I'm giving you Asians a bit of credit for this one. So he was startled, he said, when Mr. Stansberry pushed open a rooftop door in a place where drug dealings was rampant. Didn't say it was actually present at the time he pushed it, but it's rampant. So he was startled. Okay, whatever. Yeah. And that's the end of that. And we're back. So, you choose. Get on your back and spread it, or bend over and grab those ankles. Either way, here's your pillow of denial to bite into. Deny all you want. Let's continue. Hold up. And I'm in. All right, let's continue. 3. Congratulations on getting slapped back to reality. What do I mean by that? I mean all of the Asian Americans that consciously and subconsciously wish they were white and try to do everything to be white. From the eye surgery to the dyeing of your hair to the most peroxide blonde possible. And everything in between. Yeah, I went to a high school that was like, 60 to 80 something percent Asian. I had some Asian friends. I got to know about certain things the Asian community likes to do, on average, right? White and everything in between to kill your self-directed inferiority complex. At least when compared to whites. Got a rude awakening with this bit of revelation. Oops. Oh shit. I'm about to come. And I'm not pulling out, i.e. sparing you the hard reality. Long strokes is over. 100 pumps per second from here on out. Simply put, the fact is Asian Americans are nothing more than honorary whites. Yes, I know full break. I know full well I have not done that book review yet. Feel free. I mean, there's a number of books on this, but feel free to read that book, Coming Apart by Charles Murray. It talks about them Asians being honorary whites, although it doesn't talk too much. But yeah, that's one of many books you can look at for that. Anyway, back to this. Honorary whites in the eyes of white supremacy. The white supremacists, the whites that are white supremacists, obviously not all whites are white supremacists. Many whites are in fact just regular, normal whites that have no racist anything to them. Sorry I have to make that distinction, but apparently, people don't quite get it. So, yeah, not all. And, I actually purposely wanted to leave out that little disclaimer, but you know what, let me just put it in there just in case. The whites that are white supremacists can't countenance being outdone by anyone, but you Asians are just kicking their ass too much, and there's no way for them to seriously hold you down. So they welcome you to the outer perimeter of their socio-economic and socio-political ranks. The outer perimeter. You all are theoretical. This is to the Asian Americans now. Or back to you all anyway. Continuing. You all are theoretical whites, not applicable whites. Ornamental whites. Ornament, not orient. Ornaments. You know, Christmas ornaments? Yeah. Ornamental whites, not functional whites. Auxiliary whites, not primary whites. You all are useful for socio-political and socio-economical jujitsuing, such as, say, being held up in black people's faces as the, quote, model immigrant and, quote, model worker bee, which is nothing more than you being used cheap horse style. To be able to say, see, they came here and worked hard and excelled, and they're minorities just like you. So there's something wrong with you, not the system that we set up and control. Saying deceptive foolishness like that, but not mentioning such inconvenient facts such as A. You didn't face 99.99% of the race-based crime and discrimination and discriminatory legal system that blacks have faced, much less for as long as they faced it. Put another way, just like with Africa versus China, if blacks got an open door policy from whites in this country from the start, I wonder how different black lives in this country could have been today, would have been today. Maybe the same cascading intergenerational wealth that allows whites to dominate American society would have seen blacks dominating just as much, or at the very least in proportion to the percentage of the total USA population that blacks are, which is what, 13 point something odd percent? 13 point X odd, whatever that is. B. You, like most if not all other groups of people, were nowhere to be fucking found when real fighting was going on, but want to claim the rewards. More on that later. You all are going to want to hear that one. More on that later. C. You didn't face the kind of laws that barred you from quality housing and education, funneling you into economic deserts. Yeah. D. Whatever wrongdoing that was done to the few of you that were here before the 60s, you, example, Japanese concentration camps in World War II, got financially compensated for, the result of which cascaded to present day. The effects, rather. Results and effects. That can't be said for blacks getting compensated for what they went through for 300 years in this country alone, the cascading effects of which, when added with the Jim Crow era, are felt to present day. And for anybody who everybody listen closer to this one. For anyone about to say blacks got paid via all the government spending and welfare that blacks supposedly sit on, save it. Why? When the Japanese, Jews, Native Americans got compensated for what they went through, the government gave them the money directly. It didn't spend it for them. And blacks saw no part of that. Then there's the fact that the government gave them an entire jug of water at once, not just a drop every now and then, if you know what I mean. Not only that, but welfare and government entitlements are said to go to quote-unquote minorities, which, if anyone hasn't been paying attention, is anyone who isn't white and male. When it comes down to it, the biggest recipients of welfare and affirmative action is and always has been white women. And I'm not giving any links. You can feel free to go do the footwork on that one like I did. Go look it up yourself if you don't believe me. Other groups get government money and use it to advance. Hell, banks got government money to the nth degree and got back to doing what they were always been doing. You really think if blacks as a whole got anywhere near the amount of money that everyone else got, especially in the lump sum that they got it, that they would be on the bottom of society as they are now? Uh, in either case, you aren't on the same level as whites, not by a long shot. Back to you, Asians. You all aren't on the same level as whites, not by a long shot. Should be pretty obvious considering how well you Asians do, how well you all do in school, K through 12, and college, yet for some odd reason, that doesn't translate the further up the corporate ladder you go. Seems like the closer you get to CEO territory in major organizations we're talking about here, not your Chinese restaurant or your nail salons. We're talking like, major fucking companies here. The less you Asians are the less you all are represented. Hmm. And that's even after accounting for the fact that, okay, well, white people are the vast majority of people in the USA if you divide up every group, right? Once you add up all the minorities, they're obviously outnumbered greatly. But each individual person, yeah, okay, but even accounting for that, you all are really not, you're underrepresented. Can't say it's because you all don't, on average, work hard. So I wonder what it could be that seems to hold you honorary whites back from dominating the corporate world as you do the academic world. I wonder what it could be. 4. Now that you all got your status bubble popped, now, like clockwork, you all call for the unification of blacks and Asians. When I saw that, let's just keep going. The unification of blacks and Asians, quote unquote. That's fucking cute. Short of Native Americans, no group has had it worse in this country, historically, and right up to present day, than blacks. Even compared to Native Americans, they got the more quick and painless death. Say, head chopped off clean in one swing, as opposed to blacks' more slow and painful death. Say, bleeding from the belly, Despite that, Asians have had somewhat of a rough time as well. Not comparable, obviously. But the simple fact is, any alliances that would have been had between blacks and Asians should have been had way back in the 60s, at the latest. It's too late all of a sudden to want to combine black and yellow. Now, it's also not going unnoticed that the sudden call for this fusion comes when yellow realizes, rather harshly, that after all this time, its attempts to change from yellow to white have failed. Simply put, go fuck yourselves. Yeah, well, I don't know about you all, but busting that nut of truth felt good to me. Here's one last one for you. This actually goes out to all other minorities, quote unquote, as well. Think of this as like a towel for you to clean yourself up with. Here, catch. 5. To all other minorities, which again seems to be anyone that isn't white and male, you see what has been happening with blacks and the cops, and you have largely, even if not as a whole, stayed silent about it. People outside the USA have made more noise condemning the many instances of supposed coincidences than anyone short of blacks in the USA. Blacks did notice that the one time, yeah, we all noticed this. Yeah, blacks did notice that the one time a Hispanic / Latino, whichever is the more political correct term, I don't care, male got killed in the same way as the countless number of blacks, the Hispanic / Latino community did their bit of protesting and made it a point to call it, quote, their Ferguson moment. No doubt Indian, Middle Eastern, and all else would have done the same thing. This is understandable. Side note, to Indians, Middle Easterns, and all else not hit as of yet by white supremacy, yeah, you all aren't immune from the effects of white supremacy and the system in place. You Mid-Easterners are somewhat feeling it. to an extent with this bullshit scare tactic of the invasion of Europe by the Muslims. Yeah, I'll get on. I'll get on that bit of foolishness in another scripted video soon. Just because you all haven't had the kind of enlightenment that the Asian community got with this shit that happened doesn't mean you are free and clear. Indians pay special attention to that, especially since many of you are literally blacker than some Africans and many African Americans. You all are more likely to be honorary blacks than honorary whites. Yeah. Anyway, either way, what I, and indeed much of the black community, is saying is the exact same thing that has been said to us by every other minority supposedly fighting their version of a struggle in general. Even if not every single member of that group. That is, fuck you, you're on your own. Don't come to us trying to gain allies when the same shit we've been talking about, facing and fighting against for hundreds of years, much less the past several decades, finally bites you in the ass. Most other groups of people, on average, made all kinds of rationalizations, quote unquote, in their minds as to why the black community's problems with fill in the blank, in this case cops, are their fault and only their fault. I'm not going to blame the media for that, despite that entity having had a hand in it, because I don't get to blame the media for quote unquote programming me when I do the same ignorant thing back to you. I and anyone else that did that would be instantly denounced. You all are supposedly smart. You should be able to see that maybe the same media entity that paints you in a less than favorable way is probably doing the same thing to black people as a whole. Much like Asians essentially admitted knowing that there's a problem with the system thanks to their boy not getting off like all the white boys did for doing the same fucking thing. The rest of you know good and goddamn well the white supremacist system is fucked up, yet if you looked at all the marches that have been happening over and over again when black men have been gunned down, how many non-blacks do you see there? Sure, obviously blacks should be the majority, but the next majority that I see are actually whites. No Hispanics, no Asians, no Middle Easterns, no Indians, nothing. And no throwing any single digit, yeah, one Asian here, 1, 2 Spanish. No, sorry. You got like people of 100,000 each, and yet you have 1 or 2 Asians or Spanish, and that's supposed to mean anything? Yeah, no, sorry. Isn't good enough. Blacks aren't asking anyone to help us fight. As far as I'm concerned, we either stopped doing that a long time ago, or we realize now that we don't have any friends. We should have realized we don't have any friends. Blacks aren't asking anyone to help us fight. We simply say, don't come looking to us for reinforcement when any enemies come knocking at your temple walls. Right, now that you cleaned yourself up, let's wrap this up, alright? Because again, like I said, I'm binge watching House of Cards. I'm on season 4. I'm on the 2nd episode in. I want to get back to it, so let's just wrap this up. To wrap this up, I will touch on this matter of quote-unquote civil rights. This is something that as usual, I saw brought up in the Asian demonstrations and in forums and comment sections talking about this whole Peter Liang business. Every time I see some non-black group, LGBT have done this as well with their quote-unquote struggle, essentially try to recreate the civil rights era look, feel, and energy when dealing with whatever social injustice they're facing, I have to inwardly laugh. When the group that invented the civil rights calls on that energy, they're ridiculed and mocked at best, to say the least. Okay? Yet it's the go-to source of power for anyone short of white males when they have some social conflict. I find this sad and pathetic for 2 reasons. 1, back to you Asians. Where the fuck were you? And really, this could apply to anybody, but specifically for you Asians, since you are the ones that have now recently called on this power, summoned, conjured this power, whatever, this energy. Where the fuck were you? Unlike most, if not all other groups, I get on you all in number two. You Asians have been here since the fucking railroads, at least. So when the civil rights that you like to call on, as everyone else does, when you have some social setback happened, where the fuck were you? Simply put, you Asians never faced one attack dog, one hydrant hose, one police beating, or one standard issue lynching. Feel free to show me one such instance of any of that happening that hasn't been photoshopped or altered in any way. Or was it that you all were too busy being the good little model minority? Which leads me to number two. Two, as for the rest of you, meaning non-white, non-black, and non-Asian, except for the ones that came after the 60s, you're not fooling anyone that knows the history either, and I know the history. It's no surprise to anyone willing to think as to why it is that despite the fact that you all could have come here in the early 1900s, you know, that whole Ellis Island 1903, 1909, came to America, that shit. Early 1900s, you all didn't. Yet just as civil rights, again, started from scratch by, to quote Shahrazad Ali, the black man, the black woman, and the black child fighting for rights and opportunities in a country that they had helped build, cleared the way, and the immigration bill that passed during the same time, roughly about the exact same time. The migration in started happening in mass. I guarantee you, said flash flood of immigration would have been nothing more than a trickle, if that, if there had been no civil rights and we still had a Jim Crow style society as overtly as it was back then. You all knew what the fuck was going on over here with blacks back then, and you wanted no part of it. In closing, I find it amazing how all other non-black groups draw on the energy of black civil rights rather than anything in their own group's history when facing social injustices, and wanting as many allies as possible. Yet when the group that invented the very energy they feed off of ask for a bit of compensation in the form of mutual six watching, all of a sudden, everyone is too busy. Back to you Asians. I only have two questions for you. One, if Peter Liang got off, like most if not all the white officers did, would you all still be calling for quote-unquote justice? Two, the next time an unarmed black person is killed by the cops, especially while restrained and in custody, will you be making any noise at all, much less as much as you did when one from your camp got burned? Six pages, and I'm done. And that's all I have to say about this whole Peter Liang Asian community getting upset that they've been shut out from the white club. Yeah. You all have yourselves a nice day.